Okay, so I have started recording now. Okay, so today we'll be finishing this atmospheric boundary layer. So let me give you a brief overview. So all of you can see my slide.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we were discussing one of the velocity profile that suitably defines the atmospheric boundary layer. Like we have seen the governing equation for the atmospheric boundary layer, and we saw that those equations are quite difficult to solve analytically. Rather, we cannot close the system because we have lot many number of variables than the available equations. So we then found that there are few empirical relationship that defines the velocity profile and as well as suitably satisfy those boundary layer equations. So one of such equations is this one, your logarithmic velocity profile, and we show that you can define the velocity like as you move high above the atmosphere or move away from the ground. So uz can be defined in this manner and here u star is your frictional velocity which is mentioned here, and k is your a constant. Okay, that is von Karman constant. Experimentally it is obtained and that value is 0.4. Then basically this is your logarithmic profile that the velocity takes. Okay, we have simplified it for different ground condition. Like for example, if you're very close to the Earth's surface, then you can neglect the frictional term. Then your form of equation will be simplified. Okay, where is it? Form of equation will only have, yeah, the form of equation will have only the first term on the right hand side, not the second term, because you can neglect that term. And if you if you are applying this log law for height greater than 300 meter, so then you need to include additional higher order terms. Okay, so which are mentioned here. All right. Then we also have seen how do we estimate the values which are used in log law profile. For example, you have basically you can see that there are two terms. One is Z naught and U star. So Z naught is your surface roughness element and U star is your frictional velocity. First, so from the given data point, like from the measured or available wind data point, for example, UZ is available at a particular height. Okay, so from that you can estimate what will be your U star and Z naught using this graphical technique. And once these values are known, you can find out the values at other locations, or you can complete the velocity profile, in other words. Okay. So this is another term, like instead of surface roughness, we also sometimes define surface drag coefficient, which is again it is a related term to your surface roughness. As you can see here, this is the final form. Okay, and then we have solved few examples. Okay, now next let's proceed. So this logarithmic velocity profile, what we have seen earlier, there we assume that the displacement plane is zero. Okay, so displacement plane is what, or zero displacement plane. That is a particular height you need to raise from the ground level, and where all the measurements will be referred. Like already we have discussed this particular parameter d, because when you see very rough terrain, the velocity profile close to the ground cannot be suitably approximated or estimated. Okay, so we try to measure or give information above the displacement plane. Okay, so that is to incorporate that term in your logarithmic profile. You can change the equation in this manner suitably. Okay, so uz divided by u star will be equals to 2.5 ln. So the remaining part is more like the previous equation. Here only you are subtracting the d values. Okay. So Z minus D. Okay, I think just give me a moment. So Arsajit has written something. You are unable to connect. Are you there, Arsajit?
So it's okay now. I
It's okay
got
now.
my brother phone.
Okay,
So
okay,
okay.
all right. So this is what the modification basically you do Z minus D term. Okay, and using excuse me. So using this equation, you can again estimate the Z values at different height. For example, if Z1 is your one height and Z2 is another height, so just simplify this equation. So this will be your relation between two heights, the velocity values at two different heights. Okay. Another thing is you can actually estimate the velocity values using the velocity information at one particular terrain and can use the same information in a other terrain. Okay, so in that case, basically you need to find out how this Z0 is related in the two different type of terrain and D is related in two different type of terrains. I think I have an example later on. Not very difficult. This is same equation you need to follow, but the values will be different. Like Z0 at a particular terrain, that might be different when you are seeing comparing two different terrains. Okay, so surface roughness parameter. Similarly, your displacement plane values all will be also changed when you are comparing it to different terrains. But this governing or the logarithmic equation stays the same. Okay, so this using this equation you can actually estimate a value. If you know the values in one particular terrain, then using that information you can estimate for the other terrain. Okay, so this
Excuse me,
is
sir.
yes.
Sir, can you please explain? I actually missed
Okay,
this part.
yes.
That how we choose the D.
Okay, that is what in this question itself you can find out. What I have explained, you can find out here. So, for example, what did this question say? Using the logarithmic or simplified logarithmic law, where you neglect the Coriolis and higher order terms. Okay, so the simple logarithmic equation already you know this one. Okay. Of the atmospheric boundary layer, determine the surface roughness and the shear velocity at location 1. Okay, where the average wind speed varies with height Z, okay, as given in the following table. So this is your height from the ground level, okay, and the corresponding mean wind velocity UZ. Okay, so this is given at location 1. So now what you need to find out for the location 1, first you need to find out what is the surface roughness and the shear velocity. So how you can determine this? You can use the graphical technique, because you can see that there are lot many data points here. So you cannot estimate using two different values. Okay, if you remember a last example we solved, there are only two data points, right? So in that case, you could estimate the surface roughness and shear velocity using the equation itself. But for this type of question, you need to use the graphical technique. So you have Z and UZ value here. So if you go to this, yeah, this particular plot, you can see that I can plot UZ and ln Z. Okay, then from that I can find out what will be ln Z0 from the intercept and from the slope. I can get U star. Okay, now the question says that determine the surface roughness and the shear velocity at location 1. Okay, consider at location 1 the displacement plane is which is D is 20 meter. Okay, so in this particular graph, instead of Z, what you need to do? You need to plot against. Can you tell me what you need to plot? So like I have already said, when you have a displacement plane here, so you need to subtract D from here, because your height will be your effective height. Instead of Z here, it will be your Z prime. So that is Z minus D. Okay. So if you plot Z minus D here, So this will be ln z minus d and uz, then you can get these values. Okay, so at location 1, so location 1 will be clear, like you can find out the surface roughness and the shear stress from the graphical technique itself. Part B of the question is, if the shear velocity, surface roughness and the displacement plane at location 2 is scaled up by 1.2 times and 1.5 times and 1.8 times. So shear velocity at location 2 is 1.2 times the location 1 value. Similarly, surface roughness is 1.5 times location 1 value, and displacement plane is 1.8 times the location 1 value. Okay, so since you have already derived these three quantities or known for location 1, so you can find out what are these values for the location 2, and using these values you can actually estimate what will be the wind velocity at height of 100 meter using this equation again. Okay, so that equation you need to use, but the values will be different. The values will be for location 2. All right, and you can find out what will be the value at height 100 meter at location 2. Can you all try first? Let's see how you guys are doing. I see only few of you are trying the tutorials, like Akash, Rahul, then Aditya. But I expect that most of you should work on it because there is 10% class assessment. Okay. So please try this one first. Okay, so anyone know how to proceed? Anyone got any answer yet? Can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, so you guys should try. So to get the answer, so for this one you need to use a graphical technique, and I believe most of you have access to Excel. So if you plot this data, like the governing equation, what you need to use is this: uz by u star will be equal to 2.5 ln z minus d1 by z01. Okay, so this is the subscript. I am using 1 here because that indicates location 1. Okay, so this equation is for location 1. So it says that the displacement plane for location 1 is 20 meter. So you need to subtract 20 meter from it. So d1 is your constant 20 meter from all these data points. Okay, so your effective height will be z minus d1. Okay, so z minus d1, and you can simplify this equation and you can see that the final form will be this. So this equation looks like y equals to mx plus c, equation of a straight line. So in this case, excuse me, so the slope is this one by 2.5 u star 1, and intercept is this. So if I fit a line here, you can see that the slope is this much, and this is the intercept. So u star 1 from the slope I can find out it will be 3.56 meter per second. Okay, and z01, which is your that you can find out from the intercept, that will be 10.3. like you need to take the inverse of it. Ln z01 is this much, and from that you need to find out z01. Okay, so that will be 10.3 meter. So this is corresponding to the location 1, your shear velocity, your surface toughness, and displacement plane is 20 meter. Okay, now for location 2 you can find out accordingly how much it will be. So in the question it is already mentioned u star 2, which will be shear velocity at location 2, that will be 1.2 times the value at the location 1. So that gives this. Similarly, your z0 2, that is the surface toughness 2. You can get the value for location 2, and displacement plane also for location 2 you can obtain. Okay, so because this is already given in the question. Using this data, again you need to use the equation that we just now obtained, a simplified equation. So substitute all the values. Here z will be your 100 meter, right? Location 2, you are interested for a velocity value at a height of 100 meter. So z will be 100 meter. Substitute other thing. We need to find out what is your uz2, these velocity values. So that is coming around 15.27 meter per second. Okay, so this is what I have obtained. If anyone of you have tried and got, that's well and good. Okay, otherwise this is the step to follow. Now one thing you can see here, the velocity values at location 2 corresponding to 100 meter, right? So that is 15.27, and at location 1 it is 18.4. okay, at location 2 the velocity value is smaller, and that is because you have higher roughness element. You can see that the roughness element in location 2 is 1.5 times your roughness element of location 1, as well as your displacement plane is also shifted up by 1.8 times. Okay, so that's why overall you can realize that in location 2 you have a very rough kind of situation or rough terrain compared to location 1. So that's why the velocity value should obviously be smaller than the previous case of the location 1. Okay, that is what you can cross check your answer if it is correct or not. Okay. Okay, any question?
Sir, like I wanted to know that what decides the height of our displacement plane?
What decides the height of displacement plane? Actually, it is dependent on your Z0 value. Okay, what type of terrain you have, like whether it is a open sea or a slightly rough terrain like in a town or village area or a urban city area. Okay, so based on that your Z0 value will be also changing, and D1 will be again related to your Z0. Higher the Z0 value, higher will be your D1. Okay, so D1 is kind of a average plane shift. Okay, you are not shifting to the maximum height of the building or the trees. If you are talking about the forest land, you are taking an average value up to which you can say that the velocity profile is okay to estimate. Okay, if you go below D, this displacement plane, the values cannot be estimated properly. Okay, so that's why D, which is your displacement plane, it is selected based on your surface roughness parameter for that particular terrain. Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes.
So in the previous Z01 is 10.3 meter and D is 20 meter. How can it be average? Data is somewhat.
Z01 is your 10 point. This is something which we get. I mean, experimentally we define this is the surface roughness coefficient. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But this is not the absolute one. Okay. Because when we define a surface roughness for a particular terrain condition, it is again an average data set. Okay.
Okay.
Like you may get some values below that, some values higher that. So this is an average data set. And again, surface roughness D is higher than this, which is obvious. If you see in this particular graph, I think it will be clear. I define surface roughness somewhere here. Okay, somewhere here I have, because most of the surface roughness element lies in this location. Now I need to define a plane, displacement plane should be above than Z0. Otherwise, what is going to happen? It is, first thing is it will be same thing as your Z0. Okay. Second thing is there are few elements, like I have said, when we define a Z0 value, it is an average quantity. So some will be larger, some will be smaller. So to take that into account, we define another term D, which will be a better average than the Z0 value. And any data point that we are trying to calculate below this D value, because we know that in that particular height below D, the value whatever you are going to estimate or experimentally if you want to find out, those will not be a correct data point, because there are very much wall effects or the boundary effects will be prominent. Okay, because there are very much this height of the buildings or the height of the trees in that location will be not unique. Okay, so we try to avoid any calculation in this region and go above this. Okay. So
in other words, we can say that in that displacement plane, we have no effects of this surface roughness.
In the displacement plane,
we have no effects of surface roughness.
Yeah, all our calculation is above your displacement plane. So in other words, yes, that is also you can understand in this way also. Yes.
But in the, previously, you told that D value is somewhat average of Z01. It is not true like that, but we can see in the data also.
D will be higher than your. So this is your Z0, which is which is independent of your D. Okay, so D is another term.
Yes, sir.
Z0 is defined independent of D. Okay, and Z0 will go in the logarithmic equation. Okay,
Yes.
so these are approximated from your experimental data in a particular region. Whatever
Yes.
the suitable Z0 value, those are obtained after experiments. Okay.
Okay.
Then you are estimating the D value using this Z0. Okay. So that D and Z0 are related, but Z0 is defined independently.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let's. Okay. So let's see what are the disadvantages. Like already we have discussed just now, the disadvantage of logarithmic or following the logarithmic law. Like we already saw that any values below D we cannot obtain because this is going to give you negative data. Z minus D. If you are trying to find out any velocity information less than D. Okay, so that is not possible to obtain using this log profile. Okay, because this will be negative. Second thing is it is obviously difficult to integrate when you are trying to find out or when you go high above. So logarithm profile sometimes may give you difficulty in integration. Okay, so this is mathematical difficulty, but this is one of the major problem that you cannot obtain below D, which is obviously not our interest. But even using this particular equation, you cannot estimate any value. You cannot get any information even. Okay, so that's a logarithm profile. These two are major drawback. So to avoid these drawbacks, generally engineers follow power law velocity profile. Okay, which is another good approximation for the velocity information. So I think most of you might have heard about this particular power law profile. So otherwise it is also called 1/7 law. So generally like alpha value is taken as 1/7 for a flat plate. Okay, so 1/7 law of the velocity profile. That is the most common terminology for this type of velocity profile that you might have studied. It is otherwise called also power law velocity profile. So here this is the governing equation uz1 by uz2, two different heights. Z is your height from the ground surface that can be related as z1 by z2 and a exponent alpha. Okay, so this equation is only valid for if you satisfy these two conditions, or these are the assumption for this equation, you can say in other words. So power law, first assumption is power law holds good with constant exponent alpha up to h. So alpha doesn't change up to your gradient height. Okay, so that is one of the assumption, and h is only function of alpha. It doesn't depend on any other thing. Okay, so these two are the major assumption for power law velocity profile that you need to remember. So then using this particular governing equation, you can find out what will be your gradient wind velocity. So the gradient wind velocity can be obtained if you know the gradient height. Okay, so this will be your governing equation for the gradient wind velocity.
Sir.
Now there are few. Yes.
Sir, can we say that below D is the laminar sublayer, so we can not use the logarithmic equation?
You can say that the velocity values will be very small, but still there will be some form of fluctuation. It is not that you can assume it is fully laminar. Okay, because we are avoiding that calculation in that region. It has small scale of turbulence, but which can be very high frequency. So any estimation from this type of profiles will not give you the correct data. Okay. Of course, the viscous effect will be larger as you go close to the Earth's surface. But since we are also talking about a height around 10 meter or 5 meter, there will be some turbulence there. Okay, it is not that fully laminar condition. There will be, you can expect that there will be some of turbulence. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay, sir.
we don't do any calculation in that region. Everything is calculated above D. Okay. So here two things which are experimentally obtained, alpha and h. H is your gradient height and alpha is your exponent. So for different weather stations, like I have represented the data here for two different weather stations. So alpha can be like these values for open terrain condition. Okay, and in that case your h, which is gradient height, is small here, 275. But as you go to rough terrain condition like suburban or city center, so you can see that the alpha values are also increasing, as well as your gradient height, that is also increasing. Okay, so these informations are experimentally obtained. Okay, and you can see that compared to your logarithmic profile, power law profile is quite easy to handle. Okay, it is easy to handle, and you can get information like integration is also easy to do. Okay, then okay, how do you handle, or how do you find out the information for two different terrains using this power law profile, like the one you have solved using the logarithmic profile, the example what we have seen. Similar way you can find out how the velocity profile can be scaled for two different terrains, like if you know the information for the open terrain condition, okay, which can be considered as your reference case. Using this data, you can find out what will be the velocity values or the velocity profile, how it looks like for an actual site that you are interested in. Okay, so you need to basically use the same governing equation here. And now one of the assumption we need to make here, that UG remains the same. That is, your gradient wind condition remains the same at both the places. Okay, which is you can see that quite obvious thing. Gradient wind condition, it holds, it is generated after your pressure balances with other forces like Coriolis forces and your centrifugal forces. Okay, so that's why your gradient wind will be same, but the height will be different. Okay, gradient height will be different, but the UG will be same. So you can substitute the value of UG for location 2 in location 1. Okay, so that is simple mathematics you need to just do, and you can find out what will be your UZ in terms of this reference condition, which is UZ open is your reference condition. And I think you can, okay, let me take, okay. So you can see that this will be the final form of equation. So UZ corresponds to the velocity information at the actual site, which you can see that it depends on the velocity information at the open terrain or reference case. Okay, so this all open thing are corresponding to the reference case, and this is for your actual site. All right. So it is similar way you can like similar to your logarithmic profile, the same thing you can do here. And how this two velocity profile compares. So this is also obtained for this terrain condition where you Z0 and alpha and Z reference value is this much. Using this information, it has been found that both logarithmic and power law profile, they matches quite well. You can see that they match. I mean, they are very good match. Okay, so instead of using the logarithm profile, it is easier to handle power law. So people rather will follow power law than the logarithm profile. Okay. Okay, now next thing is effect of the topology. Like so far we have seen the ground is flat, or you don't have an abrupt change on the ground surface. Okay, Maybe it is you can have the urban condition, but still the overall flatness is there on the ground. But suddenly, if you see that the ground condition is changing from a flat surface to a escarpment or embankment type, this is your escarpment type or embankment type, which is most commonly you will see, like a hilly area or a escarpment type, like if you suddenly go to a plateau situation, okay, just going higher. So in that case, the velocity values can be also scaled up. Whatever velocity information you have in the flat condition, which let's say Vz, you can, using a coefficient KL, you can actually scale up the velocity values. Okay. So you can simply see that Vzx, which is your velocity information over this escarpment, or similarly you can use the same equation for the embankment. So that is basically you're multiplying with a factor KL. Okay, and these factors are also I will be showing you subsequently. There is another thing you need to know is, apart from that escarpment and embankment, you may see a hilly area or a valley region. Okay, so over the hilly area, like if it is a sudden hill, it is not a prolonging a longer span. So if it is a sudden hill there, then your velocity values will have a protuberance. Okay, so this dotted line corresponds to your undisturbed velocity information. If there is no hill, if you're just trying to find out the velocity values here over the flat surface, so this will be your undisturbed velocity condition. And if you have a hill here, the velocity values will be slightly smaller. Okay, so there will be a shielding effect. So this is called a shielding effect because of this hill area. Your velocity values will be different than the original values that you expect, that this is undisturbed condition, but due to the shielding effect, the velocity values will be smaller. Okay, and this shielding effect, it can prolong up to certain height and up to certain distance from the hill. It cannot prolong for infinite distance or infinite height. So I think here I have the discussion. You can see that for xh divided by h. So xh is your height from this crest. Sorry, this length. If you go away in the downstream or on the leeward side, this xh is the distance from your crest of the hill. Okay, and h is your vertical height. So if you say that xh divided by h, as you are moving higher or moving away from the hill, so let's say 30 meter, 30, 50, these will be non-dimensional, right? So as you're moving away, so you are seeing that the KL value, which I have said, it says a coefficient, right? Which you need to multiply with your original or undisturbed wind speed. So you can see that it is gradually increasing. Okay, so that means at 30 meter, or if I say non-dimensional length of 30 meter, so the value is 0.8. Okay, so but as you go to 200 or more than that, the value is 1. So in this case, you can see that there is no effect after 200 non-dimensional length scale. So basically that means after you go 200 non-dimensional length scale, there will not be any shielding effect. Okay, and otherwise the coefficients are mentioned here. Similarly, this row corresponds to if you were moving vertically, like z by h is equals to 1. When it is equals to 1, that means you are considering at this particular height, z by h. So z is your vertical height from the ground. So if it is equals to or greater than 1, then there is no shielding effect. Below 1, there is shielding effect. Okay, so which is quite obvious. Okay, these are experimentally obtained. So up to height h, you can see that there will be shielding effect, and beyond that there is no. So these coefficients you need to use in your original undisturbed wind condition to get the value at desired location. Okay, so this is for the hill area. For escarpment and embankment, I think I did not include. So there will be similar type of coefficients. Okay, so you just need to multiply with the undisturbed condition to get the velocity values over this different type of topologies. Okay.
Can you see that table once? Yeah.
This
Sir,
one?
yeah. On the leftmost column, the bottommost row, should that be greater than 1 or equal to 1? Because you just said for z wedge greater than 1. So I got
Yeah, you can see that at 1 itself it is already 1. Okay, so anything you go higher than 1, the same values stays. It is not going to change. Okay.
Sorry.
So that is what it indicates here. There is another interesting thing. You can see that we just saw the velocity values over the hill surface. It will be less than the actual values or undisturbed wind condition. But in a valley region, you can see that the velocity will be higher than the undisturbed wind condition, and that happens because of your Venturi effect or the channeling effect, like I have shown here. So you can imagine that if I have a curved surface, then some of the wind will rush through. Okay, so at certain region, you will also expect that the wind velocity will be higher than your undisturbed wind condition. Okay, so in that case, your KL value is greater than 1. Okay, so this will go to 1.4. So can be 1.4 times your undisturbed wind condition, and that happens because of your channeling effect or kind of Venturi effect, similar to that. Okay, so this is one of the interesting thing you'll see in valley region. Okay, then there are few more information on the wind velocity profiles. So the mean wind velocity profile on the ocean surface. Okay, so over the ocean surface, how it looks like. So over the ocean surface, you can see that your Z0 value can be related with U star. Z0 value can be related with the U star using this equation. Okay, so this is one of the equation different than the previously what we have seen. So here you can see that there is a gravitational constant as well as your empirical constant, and you can rewrite this U star in terms of U10 or the velocity values at a height of 10 meter. It's a reference condition. Most of the case we take this is the reference data. Okay, this K again you can rewrite in terms of the von Karman constant, and after substituting all the information, like generally A, which is empirical constant, lies between 0.01 to 0.02. So substitute all the values, you can get Z0, or you can relate Z0 in terms of your reference wind speed at height of 10 meter. Okay, so once you know Z0, you can use again the logarithmic profile to find out the velocity information over the ocean surface. Okay, so that is here my point of discussion is how do you estimate the Z0, okay, for the ocean surface. So these are some of the roughness element, roughness length Z0 for different reference velocity. So if your U10 is changing over a different location, so this will be your reference length. Okay, so this is the Z0 is U10, and G, A, and K values are mentioned here. Okay, so using this Z0 information, you can appropriately find out what will be the velocity values. And note that this condition is not applicable for the hurricane or strong wind. This is only this equation. Basically, this equation is only applicable for lower velocity values, not very high velocity values. So that means non-hurricane conditions. And mean wind profile for the hurricanes. It is found that you can estimate the hurricane velocity values in this way. You can use for a height less than 100 meter. You can use the log profile like it is shown here. Okay, so here particularly Z0 is taken as 0.3 and with a reference velocity values, you can see that I can have this equation. Okay, this is the same equation what we have seen earlier. Okay, logarithmic profile only, and above 100 meters the velocity values stays the same, and you can use as average velocity at height of 100 meter. So whatever velocity you get here, that stays the same. Okay, as you go ahead. So this is how hurricane velocity profile is estimated. This is approximate velocity. Okay, so of course you know that there are a lot of turbulence in that, but these are the mean velocity values. Okay. So there are, let's before we wrap up, let's quickly see what are the possible turbulence quantities that we can estimate in the atmospheric boundary layer. So which we have already discussed. So this is just a quick overview of that. So you can see that the wind velocities or wind speed fluctuates over time. Okay, at different heights it is mentioned here. So using these fluctuating velocity components, you can actually find out your longitudinal velocity, then your parallel to the ground surface Vt, and above height. Okay, so this is your axis system if you follow. For each of these component, you can get the turbulence or turbulent fluctuation. Okay, so that you can get from using this equation. Ut minus u mean. Okay, and this equation basically it corresponds to your standard deviation of ut. Okay, so this is a standard deviation. So now using the standard deviation, you can also define the turbulence intensity for 3 different directions. Okay, so sigma u, sigma v, sigma w, and this is IU is turbulence intensity along u direction, v and w direction. Okay. And it is also found that these turbulence intensities can be written in terms of sigma u alone, that is your longitudinal velocity alone. You can actually have expression for that. So sigma u, it can be approximated as 2.5 times u star. Okay, so this is your sigma u value. Similarly, you can approximate sigma v, which is your standard deviation of the fluctuation along the v direction. Okay, so that is 2.2 times u star, and sigma w along the z direction or the vertical direction, it can be approximated as 1.37 u star. Okay, so u star is your frictional velocity. So you can see that all the standard deviation can be written in terms of u star. So turbulence intensity also you can write out in terms of u star. Okay, so this will be your turbulence intensity values when you are following the logarithmic law. Of course, obviously when you are talking about the logarithmic law. So for IU, this is the value, for IV this, and for IW you can see that this. So you can see that the denominator terms remains the same, but the turbulence intensity, if you can compare in the numerator, it is the highest for the u direction, and gradually it is the smallest when you're talking about the vertical direction. Okay, so this is like I have substituted the values for the Z0 in this equation, and for different height you can see that how IU varies. Okay, so as you move higher, the turbulence intensity obviously it is reducing. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for this chapter. Any question? Okay, so if no question, let me take the attendance first.